So the issues with the engineers, number one, like I mentioned before, I feel like they're pretty gimmicky in their current state. I don't feel like the engineers feel like, you know, the Royal Engineers or, you know, the sappers of World War II, where they were creating these extensive fortifications, like at the Battle of Tobruk, I think is how you pronounce that, in Africa, where they basically made such crazy fortifications that the city was surrounded for months and months and months in a siege from the Germans, and they were able to hold out because of these fortifications and because it was such a heavily fortified position. I feel like that is kind of the idea that we should be getting from engineers. We should, you know, you should like sacrifice a position. You know, you have your guys like hold out for as long as they can while you go back with your engineer squad and you build up a bunch of defenses on the point, and then the enemy rolls up and it's kind of this like, oh crap moment. Or alternatively, you know, on like conquest maps with the 3 different points, you could build like an outpost somewhere on the map around an objective, to where it's just like it becomes like a secondary objective that the enemy has to take, because it's such a powerful position with MGs pointing outward and AT guns everywhere, rally points and stuff like that, to where the enemy like has to find a way to get rid of that point because of how powerful it is. I feel like that is how the engineers should feel in the game. And right now they just feel like, you know, you throw some sandbags down and that get destroyed after 2 seconds, or you build like a couple sandbags and like a rally point and an MG, and then a tank literally comes over and just like actually rolls over all of them with its tracks, and you're kind of like, you're left like sitting there like, you know, why did I waste all this time building these defenses when they're not really that relevant? So I think that's kind of my biggest issue with them, is that they really just feel gimmicky as their current state is. The other things that kind of go into that, you don't need the engineering squad in the current state of the game. If you just have an engineer and a couple squads that you bring to the field, there's no real reason to have an engineer squad. Why would you? You really, engineers are just built for 2 things, or you're used for 2 things. 1, rally points, because you need rally points for the whole team. And number 2, you need them for, say, like an AT gun, which are rarely used and aren't that effective in the first place. Or alternatively, a machine gun nest is really what they're used for a lot, is using them for the MG42, which is obscenely powerful. So I don't really see that many people using them around for things other than that. You know, you occasionally get a match where someone like fortifies a position, but even that again is gimmicky, where they're building like barbed wire inside, like they're just filling like an entire corridor with barbed wire to where you can't even get anywhere near them. Or they're putting like hedgehogs, I think that's what they're called, the tank traps. They're building like tank traps on like windows or like inside bunkers, and that again is just gimmicky. It doesn't feel like that's like how the engineer should function. Nobody was building tank traps inside bunkers, as far as I'm aware. That just, it's not realistic, I think. So I really, you know, would like to see that fixed a little bit. And again, you don't need the whole squad. You just need 1 engineer to build a rally point. So why would you bring the entire squad when, you know, you're basically just a trooper squad at that point without the cool perks? So, and finally, again, I've kind of alluded to this, you're more effective offensively than defensively as it currently is, because again, the most effective tools that the engineer has at their disposal for the most part are, number 1, the rally point is the most important thing, and rally points are really an offensive tool. You can use it defensively, obviously, but really the rally point is just used for getting to the front line faster, so that can be either offense or defensively. But I see a lot of, you know, flanking rally points and stuff that can be incredibly effective. And then of course the MG42 is not really used, it can be used defensively. I think it is to an extent, obviously on D-Day and stuff like that, but I see them, you know, it's less about fortifying a position than it is about just getting kills, right? Your team isn't really using your fortifications. You know, you're not acting as a support, you're acting as a killer, right? You're building an MG42 and then gunning down a bunch of Americans on a beach, which I just find to not be in the spirit of it. And yes, that should be a part of it, right? Like there's no reason engineers shouldn't get kills and shouldn't unload an MG42 and be able to build, you know, fortifications that kill the enemy, because again, killing the enemy is how you know, win the game. But again, it just doesn't feel very support. It feels like you're more of like a killer. You're just like a machine gun nest rather than like putting up defenses that are supporting your team. I hope I'm explaining that correctly and kind of my thoughts on that. So let's get into my personal rework on how I would like to see engineers function in Enlisted. So those of you that might have played Hell Let Loose or Squad, you'll see some similarities between them, especially with Hell Let Loose, because I really like how Hell Let Loose has their engineers function. Hell Let Loose has some issues with them that I think Enlisted actually already has systems that fix. So I think that it can kind of be a best of both worlds between the current Enlisted system and the Hell Let Loose system. So my idea would be that engineers basically build tiers of buildings, tiers of fortifications. So think of it as, you know, you build tier 1 of a sandbag, and then you build tier 2 and it's like a bigger sandbag, little nest, and then tier 3 could be like a concrete bunker, right? And each increasing tier has more supplies that you have to invest in and more time investment that you have to put in. So maybe the first one is how it is now, where it's a little sandbag wall, just a tiny little one that takes like 5 seconds to build and costs 1 supply. If you guys don't know, engineers actually already have supply, so I'm not trying to say that there should be any kind of new resource in the game or anything like that. No. Engineers already have 20 supply that they start with, so that already exists. Don't worry about that. So the first one, sandbag, 1 supply, 5 seconds. Just real quick fortification. If you need to build one, you know, maybe you need cover crossing an area, or maybe you just want to put down like a little hidden area somewhere. And then the tier 2, you can go up to that sandbag that's already there, and maybe there's a little, you know, upgrade button, and you know, you just click it and suddenly you go to tier 2, and then it takes 2 supply and 10 seconds to build, and that gives you like a little sandbag bunker. You guys have probably seen those around that have you know, like instead of just like a little waist high wall or whatever, it's got the top over it and then a hole in the middle, to where you have like a little bit more head cover and you've got a little peek hole that you can look through. I think that would be nice. And then level 3 is where it always kicks up to where it'd be like 10 supply, 30 seconds, and then you get like a concrete bunker, or maybe like a concrete wall or something like that. I realize that this would be new assets that would have to be made for the game. And again, if the developers, I don't know your process, I don't know if that would be easy or hard to do. I think that the game has the assets to make this rework possible just inside the game itself. I don't think that any new assets really need to be implemented. I think it works best with new assets, and I think there's a lot of cool things that you could do, but regardless, I think that it could be done in a basic way with the assets that currently exist in the game. I know there aren't any concrete walls or bunkers, but I think that there's things that you could do to make it work. So that's how, you know, for example, the sandbags, I think the rally point could be more interesting with this as well. You could have an 8 supply cost rally point as the tier 1. That's just a personal rally point, so only your squads can spawn on it. And then it could be really small and kind of hidden away, to where this could be like a personal rally point that you know, you could use to flank, and then you could upgrade it, and then that would be a team rally point that would cost like 12 supply, take 30 seconds to build. So then, you know, 1 engineer can build a full team rally point, and it would take, you know, 45 seconds, quite a while, because I think rally points need to be nerfed a little bit. I think that we should see more time investment for rally points. I think they're just a little bit too powerful right now, because they can tip the scales of the match way too heavily. So I think having a little bit more investment for rally points would be nice. So that would be a 15-second spawn on that for the tier 2. And then tier 3 would be a full 20 supply, and that would bring a team rally point, 10-second spawn, real quick, get your boys in the action, quick, and really give engineers a strong kind of powerful rally point. You could change how these models look too, to also be more interesting, so then like the enemy could see these rally points. So like maybe the big rally point, the tier 3, has a big antenna shooting out the top, you know, so you can't build it in buildings, or maybe if you do, it shoots through the top. So then, you know, the enemy can be like, oh shit, they've got a big rally point over there, that's something that we need to take out. Because right now, you can hide rally points in just like little areas, and it can be really hard to find them. So I think having like a rally point and giving this kind of like secondary objective, where the enemy needs to be like both attacking this point, and the people who have the rally point need to be defending it, would be really, really interesting. So essentially, to boil it down, guys, is again, you just have these like progressing tiers of power of the fortifications, and I think that this solves the main issues in, you know, some really, really unique and interesting ways. So fortifications are more unique in this sense. You can use them as like patchwork, just quick assaults, right? You need some sandbags, you need a personal rally point, you need a quick team rally point, you plop them down while you're assaulting the point, you know. Or maybe you're just like, oh crap, like they're coming in, let's fortify this building really quick, I'm gonna hold this building, let's just slap down some really basic fortifications just really, really quickly with just, you know, 1 engineer in my squad. You can still do that, that still exists. But if you want to be the guy who builds, you know, heavily fortified areas, heavy fortifications on an area, you can bring your full engineer, 5-man all engineer squad. You've got 100 supplies, and you're gonna slap down a bunch of concrete bunkers. You're gonna slap down like a big team rally point, you know, an MG42 like heavy fortified area, you can do that too. And those are going to be positions that tanks aren't going to be able to just roll over. The enemy is going to have to make a very real effort to take down stuff like that. And I think that that is really, really cool. And I think that that kind of solves both of, I think that's kind of the best of both worlds, where you get the players who want to be really heavily defensive and supportive players. They still get to do that, but then engineers also serve the function for the more aggressive players like myself. Tier 3 fortifications also require a really high amount of supplies, where again, you need that squad of engineers if you want to make those really powerful, like, you know, like imagine if like a tier 3 anti-tank gun was like a freaking 88, right? Like the big 88s that the Germans use. That would be so cool. Like imagine seeing that in like the Battle of Berlin or something, like T-34s rolling up and you're just smacking them with 88s. I don't know if they had 88s in Berlin, if they still use them at that point, but you guys understand my point here. Just big AT guns. I think that would be so cool. And you got to really invest a lot of time. But if you have more engineers, then you can order them to help you build to where that cuts down the time. And so, you know, with a big engineer squad, you know, even 2, if you get your buddy to help you, you could fortify a position really, really quickly with really high tier fortifications if you decided to bring that engineer squad. So I think that would be really, really interesting. And finally, the time investment that you have to put into these, means I feel like it rewards players for actually fortifying a position, and it also puts the emphasis on defense rather than offense, because you're not going to be able to build a big ass, you know, concrete bunker right outside the enemy objective. You know, you're going to have to do more of like defensive fortifications because of the time investment and the supply investment and things like that. So I think it puts the emphasis back on defense rather than offense, like I talked about before. So again, guys, those are just my thoughts. If the developers find these, I know they've watched some of my videos in the past. I hope that this really inspires you. I don't expect you to do this word for word, although if you do, I would like a job. Like I said, I'm fresh out of college with a degree in game design. So if you want to hire me, that'd be awesome. Anyway, self-plug there. Again, I just hope that this inspires you guys, or maybe it just gives a good idea of my critiques of it. And I think that some issues that a lot of people have with engineer squads right now, or alternatively, maybe I'm insane and everyone loves the engineer squad. Let me know down below in the comments, guys. Maybe give me some ideas about the anti-tank guns, you know, what, or some of the fortifications, you know, how do they look? Do you think, you know, the 88 would be too strong? Do you think that, you know, what would the British get? Things like that, because I think the British really had a good, they had a lot of focus on fortifications and things like that. So let me know, guys, down in the comments, and remember to always subscribe to the channel if you want to see more cool Enlisted content. Again, the open beta comes out in about a week here, guys, 2 weeks ish. So we're going to be a little bit slow on the content, but as we ramp up, and again, the Wednesday, I believe it's April 7th. Yeah, Wednesday before the game releases, April 7th, we're going to be doing a long stream over at my Twitch, twitch.tv/HeyQuadro, like I mentioned before, and we're going to be doing 2 founder pack giveaways, so make sure you guys are there. That's going to start at 6 p.m. EST, Wednesday, April 7th. So be there, guys, if you guys want to grab a founder pack of your choice, or you want to, you know, be in the running to grab that. And that's it for me, guys. Again, let me know down below in the comments. I'll stop rambling for you, and I'll see you guys next time. Hey, Quad Bros, welcome back to another video here. And just like every video that I've pretty much ever made, this is one that I have been working on for a while and have been really thinking about and have wanted to make for quite a while. I know I say that every time, and that's because I'm just such a smart guy that I'm constantly thinking of new things, right? All right. So this time I want to talk about engineers. Now, if you guys have been to my stream over at twitch.tv/HeyQuadro, #self-plug, you know that I really don't like how engineers are right now. I feel they're really gimmicky. I feel like engineers in their current state really don't feel how engineers should feel. They don't feel like the royal engineers that are building these crazy fortifications and really, you know, hardening a point that can stop anything. I feel like right now it's just like engineers are used to plop down an MG42 looking at the enemy spawn and then laser them from across the map, and nobody can really do anything about it until someone shoots the MG42 with 1 bullet and then it's gone. And I just kind of feel like that's kind of gimmicky. It's not really that interesting. So I have some ideas for my own engineer rework that I want to get into. Now, if you guys don't know, I do actually have a degree in game design. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am the best game designer ever. I mean, I'm fresh out of college, so it's not like I have a ton of actual experience, but I do know what I'm talking about to an extent here. And again, if the devs, you know, watch this video, I want to say that I have no idea how your guys' process works. I have no idea if this is even possible from your end or anything like that. I just wanted to give my ideas and my critiques of the engineer class, and maybe something can, you know, maybe this video inspires the developers to come up with something of their own, you know, tweak my ideas or anything like that, or maybe just come up with something on their own, you know, and the critiques of the engineer class they recognize, and maybe they've got something in the works now anyway. So without further ado, let's get into my current issues with the engineer class so we can kind of preface this video and my kind of ideas for the rework with the current issues that I think the engineer class has.